With the holiday season, chances are a lot of people have gotten upgrades or replacements for things that they currently own. One of the best parts about this is that a lot of used things go onto the market for it to find a new home. And a lot of people may be a little bit hesitant to buy used, but I'm here to talk to you today about why buying used or refurbished is an incredible idea and a great way to save some money. So, if anybody knows me, I am a very frugal human being, and I normally will not buy anything full price. I usually wait for it to either go on sale or to find a good used option. There are a ton of things that I use here in my little cave that are used or refurbished parts. My Logitech MX Master was bought used. A bunch of my keyboards were bought used. One of the cameras that I used was bought used. Some of the lenses that I bought used. My recent purchase of these wireless Go 2s from Rode, I bought used. And normal price, they're about $330, but I ended up paying $205 for them. And the only thing was that it was an open box. And there are many benefits to buying used other than just saving money. One of the biggest ones is environmental, right? You are reducing the chances that something's going to get thrown into the garbage, and if you can make use of it, then that's great. I have personally purchased quite a few used things that maybe weren't working very well. For example, the steering wheel I use for sim racing games, I bought, and it had a few issues with some of the connectors. I opened it up, I resoldered up some of the connections on the board, and it works perfectly flawless now. Same thing happened with one of the 3D printers I bought. A bunch of the points, the USB on it and the power points were both ripped off in shipping somehow. So I resoldered those on and it works fine as well. And I know that fixing things isn't everybody's forte, but if you do know someone who's willing to fix it for a small fee, it is a really good option to, save something that can be saved, fixing it up and getting it for a very cheap price. Now, as I've mentioned, I've got a ton of keyboards that I've bought either used or open box, and I've saved a lot of money on them. Now, should I have bought all those keyboards? Probably not. Same thing with headsets. I probably have maybe 15 or 20 pairs of headsets. I'm only one person, so I don't really need those. A lot of the times I end up lending them out to people or selling it to them for really cheap. But those are all things that I've purchased for very, very low amounts of money. And there are multiple ways to buy these open box or used items, either through Amazon, Best Buy, or through local stuff like Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji here in Canada, or Craigslist in the US. Another tale of the used market is refurbished. That's when a manufacturer will typically take in a used part, clean it out, make sure it works well, fix anything that needed fixing, and then resell it. And I've got an incredible example of this. I bought a 6700 XT Hellhound from Power Color, and I paid $350 for it. And that is a $700 plus in Canadian graphics card. Now, yes, I'm not getting a warranty, but I'm getting it for half the price. So in my eyes, the amount that I'm saving in terms of buying that product for so much cheaper than regular price makes up for the warranty. And honestly, out of all the things that I've bought used, the amount of times that I've wished I've needed a warranty, it doesn't really outweigh the price that I've saved by buying used. And it doesn't even have to stick to technology things. I have bought camping gear used. I've bought things for my Jeep used. And I guess the main idea of this video is just to kind of educate people a little bit on how used can be such a great thing and how you don't have to be afraid to buy used. I honestly would not be able to do YouTube the way I do it and my streaming because a lot of the components that went into this were used or kind of picked together by buying things that weren't working. As I mentioned the camera. My cam link that I use for my cameras was bought used. The streaming computer is actually a bunch of used parts from other computers that I've moved in there. The graphics card I bought at the beginning of the pandemic used. The CPU I bought off of a friend used. The motherboard I bought used. The power supply was an old power supply from a computer that I helped someone replace. They gave me the old power supply. So, I have a lot of secondhand stuff down here, and it just makes things go really, really well. Now, that isn't to say that you should be buying everything used if you don't need it, because that's where I am. I have probably way too many things. If you ask my parents, I've got way too much stuff. If you see anybody that comes down and checks out my space, they're like, wow, you got a lot of stuff. And I do. But I also like being the person that's overly prepared and has a solution for everything. So as soon as a friend's like, hey, my mouse stopped working, I'm like, hey, I got a mouse for you to borrow. Hey, I really need a headset. Hey, I've got a headset you could borrow. You could buy it from me for 20 bucks, you know? So I really enjoy being that person, and I really enjoy having those things. I also enjoy buying things that maybe not working properly, and the enjoyment I get out of tinkering or trying to fix it to get it to work is something that I enjoy, and it's kind of like a hobby. Okay, and to give a practical example on something that was very recent, my friend Andreas and I, when he came up to visit, we built him a computer using a bunch of parts that I had bought, basically all used, excluding the NVMe drive and the power supply. Even the mouse, keyboard, and headset that he used were all bought secondhand. So when looking at the computer itself, we had a 3600 in there for 115 Canadian. All these prices are going to be Canadian. The motherboard was a B550i Aorus Pro. That was about $80. The LPX 16GB Corsair RAM, 3200 megahertz, was $30, and I got that alongside with the motherboard. Like, I just threw them in for an extra 30 bucks. We got a Cooler Master NR200 case. I bought that for $20. I've actually bought 3 of these cases secondhand. One of them I got for $10. This one I got for $20, and then another one I got for $25. Cases are an incredible thing to buy secondhand because when someone goes and buys a new one, they don't usually keep the old one, and you can usually get them pretty cheap. We installed 4 fans in there, although the case did come with 2 fans, but I'm still going to factor in the price of all the fans that we added, even though I took out fans. So I normally will never spend more than $10 a fan, so those were $40. We have that renewed or refurbished 6700 XT that we talked about earlier. That was $390. So for all of those used parts, it came out to $675 Canadian. For the new parts, we have an SN750 NVMe drive that was $85, and we have an SF750 from Corsair power supply that was $180. So the new parts were $265. If you add that to the cost of all the old parts or the used parts, $940 Canadian. If you convert that to US, that's $686. Now, if you compare that to some of the builds that I talked about last week, a build with the same level of performance, the CPU is going to be different. Here we have the 3600 versus last week we talked about the 5600X. But other than that, the power supply is the same, just a small form factor. The case is still a fantastic case. Still getting 16 gigabytes of RAM. You're still getting the same performance for the most part. The FPS may be a little bit lower because of the older CPU, but you're paying $686 compared to $950. So it's just incredible how much money you can save when you buy secondhand. And this was just one of those real life examples. So yeah, to conclude this video, I really just wanted to say, before you go out and buy something new, take a look if there's a used version out there, something secondhand that someone's getting rid of. Because a lot of the times you can end up getting something better by buying it used and getting it for the same price as something else that was new. In terms of computer parts, graphics cards and CPUs are a great purchase to get used, as are cases. Cases are a fantastic thing to get used as well, and monitors and peripherals like keyboards and mice too. If you ever want advice on where to find things used and if something used is a good price or not, you're more than welcome to hop into the Discord and ask. You can make a post over in our help desk section, and I'd be more than happy to help you out. And that's it. I hope that this helps you kind of gain a little bit of confidence in buying used items, and I hope that your searches for them go well. I also hope that this video helped you out, and if it did, I'd really appreciate if you subscribed. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. As always, big thanks to my patron sponsors, Thought Slime and Step Back, and thank you for watching this video. If you do want to see the video where I talked about how to save money on things by getting them on sale, you can go ahead and check this video right up here. And until next time, stay safe out there. I'll see you next Saturday.